If Candace Owens' actions and requests are to pull the donations from Turning Point and malign the people involved with it so that no one wants to be involved, the question then becomes, what will Turning Point be a year from now? And if Candace's actions say anything and she succeeds, Turning Point will have been destroyed. Charlie's legacy gone. Everything he built erased and but a memory. That is what Candace is working towards because she hates Charlie Kirk. What is going to happen in the midterms? And the people that once stood together are now all fighting with each other. And I got to tell you, I am black-pilled.
Well, Tim Pool is having a bit of a public crash out over Candace Owens, who he claims is grifting off of the assassination of Charlie Kirk, who she does not hate, who was actually a friend of hers, and is making money off of his assassination. At the same time, he's accusing her of costing Republicans the midterms. Cenk, what are your 2 cents?
Yeah, so I'm fascinated by this GOP civil war. So before it made some sense to me, it was lining up as the people who are America first versus the people that are Israel first. But now things have taken a turn. I'm not really sure where Tim Pool stands on that. His issue might be completely different, but man, are they fracturing. As you're gonna see here, there's just wars on every side for the right wing.
So I had been watching Candace Owens' show, not because I agree with her politics, for all the people whose heads exploded when I said that offhand one day on this show, but because I want to understand what she's saying. So when we're talking about her on this show, I do the story justice, because after all, at one point recently, she was the top podcast in the country. Everyone was listening to her, everyone was watching her, and I just wanted to be in the know. And I'm gonna be fully honest with you guys, I lost track of what's going on. Like, it's so hard to keep track of this, semi-investigation that's taking place. Like, she's using her show to investigate the assassination of Charlie Kirk. I will admit that I'm not very trusting of our FBI, and I do feel that Kash Patel did a horrible job from the jump in regard to responding to Charlie Kirk's assassination. That said, there are all these different threads that Candace Owens is following, and I've lost track of them. France is involved. There's Egyptian jets. Like, it's hard to really make sense of it all. But with that in mind, I do get the sense that she does care about figuring out what actually happened. Now, some people say Tyler Robinson did it. We have all the evidence we need. Let's move it along. She's not buying it. And so as she's doing these shows and garnering a pretty significant audience while doing so, she's getting attacked more and more. And by the way, one of the other things that she is doing, and was alluded to by Tim Pool, is she is accusing Turning Point USA of betraying Charlie Kirk. She focuses on some of the Christian Zionist pastors that are associated with Turning Point USA. And the one thing that she did show the receipts on was the fact that, as the head of Turning Point USA, the organization suffered as a result of Charlie Kirk wanting to foster free and open discussion and debate on the topic of Israel. There were people who were denying that, but then she showed the goods. She showed the text message exchanges that made it abundantly clear that he had been bullied so much that he himself said, I have no choice but to leave the pro-Israel cause. And then the next day he was assassinated. So right now there is a divide among the Republican base. Tim Pool claims that he's very much concerned about it. So this whole drama began with Tim Pool's allegations that Candace is tearing MAGA apart with her sleuthing and her investigation into Charlie Kirk's assassination. And she has, again, implied the Turning Point betrayed Charlie. But Candace really doesn't seem to care one bit what Tim Pool has to say about any of this. So what you're about to see is a side-by-side. On one side, it's Candace reacting in real time to the statements that are being made about her by Tim Pool. Take a look.
Instead of saying, guys, let's come together and figure out how to work together, she says the stupidest crap. And now everybody's running around divided and broken. For what reason? For literally what reason?
because they killed Charlie Kirk in broad daylight and we don't care about your stupid midterms. Tim Pool is going off right now because he's like, it's not the time. You guys need to be mules. You need to keep voting in the very corrupt people that are lying to your faces right now about what happened to Charlie Kirk. It is not the time because it is your job to get people into office. That is the point of a Tim Pool show. It doesn't matter what you are going through at home. I want you guys to hear this, okay? I don't care if you have family members that are dying, family members who have died, if you have children that you care about and you maybe don't want to live in a world that's run by pedophiles. You need to put that all aside and vote for whoever the hell Tim Pool tells you to vote for.
So there's also some important context here because prior to Charlie Kirk's assassination, it was very clear that Candace Owens had become disillusioned with the Trump administration, was very angry about how the Epstein files were very obviously being covered up by the Trump administration, and was not at all a proponent of US support for Israel's genocide in Gaza. So she was already there mentally, and then the assassination happens. And right now it seems like people like Tim Pool are up in arms about how she's not helping the Republican cause. But she wasn't really favoring the Republican cause, at least as it's playing out in the Trump administration, even before Charlie Kirk was assassinated. Cenk.
Yeah, there's a couple of things here. One is the substance of these issues. The other is the fight. And the third is the political realignment happening so fast and so thoroughly that it's hard to know who's on which side anymore.
Right, I agree, yeah.
Yeah, so, all right, let's take substance first. Tyler Robinson, look, I don't know what happened there. If some people say you're under an obligation to believe the government. No, I'm under no such obligation. Other people say you're under an obligation to believe conspiracy theories I came up with yesterday. No, I'm also not under that obligation. You have to prove it out. You have to show evidence. Until we get that, we don't know. But I will tell you this, and this one is easy. I did read he's on suicide watch. If he does not show up to trial and magically commits suicide with no tape around or anything else happens to Tyler Robinson, then he obviously was not the killer.
The biggest thing for me, Cenk, is the fact that the weapon that was allegedly used to assassinate Charlie Kirk would have blown right through his neck, but it didn't. And so the explanation that we received from Turning Point USA about that was that it was a miracle, and that Charlie was in such great shape that he managed to stop his neck, managed to stop that bullet. I'm not a ballistics expert, but I've watched a lot of videos by ballistics experts, and every single one of them is like shocked by that explanation and doesn't buy it. But again, I think it's totally fine to not trust the FBI and want a more thorough investigation. But I can't really speak to the credibility of what Candace is saying on her show because I totally lost the thread, or the 58 threads that are currently taking place simultaneously on her show. Like the DuPonts are involved. There's a guy named Pierre. Like I don't know. But let's get to where things really start to blow up.
Hold on.
Okay.
There's a lot more I was gonna say. So first, look, I don't know if Pierre Cardin did it. I have no idea. But yeah, there's a lot of questionable things. Why did he disassemble the rifle and reassemble it? Why is so conveniently engraving the bullets, etc. So, but we'll find out in due time. But if he dies before trial, then he definitely was not the killer. That's so obvious. Please, guys, use common sense, okay? So number two, when you get into the fight between these guys, it seems like Tim Pool's more bothered by like who's got more views and etc. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but like why? Like since he doesn't appear to be Israel first, and I might also be wrong about that. I don't know why he's so animated about Candace's theories. So if I don't agree with some of Candace's theories, and I certainly don't, I don't think that the First Lady of France is a dude. So what? I don't agree with that theory. If I don't agree with any of her theories, it doesn't bother me, right? And so if he's worried that she's splitting the Republican vote apart, okay, but to what end, right?
But also, how about you blame the Trump administration for failing to follow through on its promises on the Epstein files, for edging toward a regime change war in Venezuela, for continuing the genocidal campaign that Israel is carrying out in Gaza. Like these are things that have actually divided the MAGA base. To say that, Candace Owens unilaterally is doing that is ridiculous to me.
Yeah, one easy guide stick for all of you out there, and it doesn't matter if this is on the left or the right. Is that media host looking out for the voters and the principles of your side or anything that you believe in, right? Or is he looking out for politicians, even when those politicians betray the things that you want? So that's why we challenged Obama and Biden so aggressively here on the Young Turks, because I don't really care about their egos and their status and their titles. I care, did they deliver for you? So I think that's what Tim Pool and Candace and everybody else should be looking out for. There, I'm not so scoring between those two on that one. It appears Candace is looking out more for what the MAGA voters originally wanted, and Pool in this case seems to be looking out more for what the politicians want. So
the thumbnail to Candace's response, or at least the video contained a response to Tim Pool's allegations. The thumbnail to that video featured a tiny photo of Tim Pool, and now he thinks that by including an image of him in the thumbnail, she's trying to get people to think that maybe he had something to do with Charlie Kirk's assassination. But I don't think that's what she's trying to do. I think she just included his image because in the content of that video, she obviously addressed the allegations that he's making about her. But nonetheless, he freaked out about it.
Now, the issue with Candace Owens is when she makes a thumbnail, the $1 billion question, and she puts a mystery man in a Polaroid, the insinuation is obvious, and this is the game she's always played. Who benefited from Charlie Kirk's death? And then she shows Cash and she shows me, because she knows that people who don't pay attention, she knows that regular people scrolling through, they read headlines and they see photos, they insinuate, they connect, and they move on. And that was the point of what she was doing. I believe that it is intentional on her part. The question is, what is the outcome of what she's doing as she pushes these psychopath grifter conspiracies so she can profit off of the death of Charlie Kirk while spitting on his grave and smiling as she does?
Now, things escalated further following something that he alleged happened. He posted about it on X, and then we're going to show you some video clips of him talking about it. And by the way, this is horrific. Okay, so he wrote that, and this is a post from December 6th. Last night, a vehicle, meaning on December 5th, a vehicle approached our property and opened fire. No one was hurt, luckily. Our security team is reviewing the incident and will be relaying the report to appropriate law enforcement. This is the price we pay for speaking out against evil. And then he raged on his show.
When someone pulls in front of my property and fires on it several times, I'm sitting here looking at these vile pieces of and thinking to myself, for what purpose will I stick my neck out if this is what happens after Charlie Kirk is killed? Candace Owens is a evil scumbag. She is a degenerate. She is burning everything down, and she's gloating and smiling while she does it. And you know what you told me? She has no security. She doesn't deal with the we have to deal with. She's a piece of. She's making everyone else suffer. And all of these conservatives out there that send me these messages have no balls to call her out.
Okay, there are plenty of people who aren't watching her content and they're not suffering. Like, if her content is making you suffer, just don't watch her content. I don't like. He's understandably emotional given the clear threat to his life. Okay, and I would be very upset about that too. I mean, he's clearly also drawing a link to what happened to Candace Owens, which I think is unfair. But I'm going to show you one more video, Cenk, and then we'll get your thoughts, because this is the part where I think he went way too far. Let's watch.
You told me you went to her house and she's got a 4-foot wall and one fat guy, and she doesn't give a shit about our security. Meanwhile, I get bullets fired at my property and I have to go live in the middle of nowhere. And I got strangers coming up to my house in Maryland, breaking in. I got people showing up and beating up the residents who try to live there. How the f am I even supposed to sell this property?
I assure you that Candace Owens, as a public figure, regardless of what you think about her, has plenty of people who would want to cause her harm. And I know that as a public figure myself. So I just think talking about her lack of security in that manner is a pretty gross thing to do, and he shouldn't have done that. I don't know if that's accurate about her security situation, but he shouldn't have done that. And I don't know why he's this worked up about her specifically, and whether he has any evidence linking her to what happened to his home.
Yeah, but I get it. Look, if somebody took shots at us, and we've gotten a lot of death threats from some quarters, and we're super pissed about it, and if we thought somebody was encouraging that, we'd be pretty irate. So there, he's got a lot more sympathy for me, but I wouldn't have disclosed her security situation either. Yeah, that's out of bounds. And so, look, if you think that it's affecting your safety, the safety of the people that work with you, I get why you're angry about that. Now, look, to me, again, if you're trying to judge, and again, it doesn't matter if you're on the right or the left, whichever side you're on, whatever beliefs you have, what should be your, ruler for how to judge these folks? Who's actually on your side? Well, so on the issue of Israel, for example, that one's kind of obvious and clear. If a host is constantly telling you, and I'm not saying that Tim Pool's doing this, I really don't have almost no idea what his position on Israel is. But if a host is constantly telling you that Israel's great and you should serve Israel, and it is like, it's weird. It's weird, right? If they tell you, hey, we ran on America first, we should do America first, that's consistent, that makes sense. If they said, hey, we're against wars, and now they say, we're still against wars, that makes sense. If they switch their position, go, well, because Daddy Trump wants to invade Venezuela, now we're pro-war, you go, oh, okay, the thing that I'm judging you by is whether you're looking out for me and the beliefs that we all thought we had together, or you're looking out for the powerful, right? So one way that you could tell here and is related to all of these stories that they're talking about, which is just yesterday there was a news story from Fox News of all people that 1,000 Christian evangelical pastors and influencers went to Israel, and they came and said that they had to represent the Jewish people here in America. And I'm like, look, I love that you're looking out for Jewish people. That's great, that's wonderful, even though you're from a different religion. But I don't know why Christian pastors have to represent the Jewish people in America, but that's the least offensive by far. It's just weird. Like if they came back from a trip from anywhere and they said, our job as Christian pastors is to represent Muslims or to represent Hindus, you'd be like, oh, that's strange. Okay, and then they said, we need to do a better, here's a quote, we need to do a better job of educating young people to, quote, plant the seed for lifelong support for Israel.
Yes, that's what it was about. It was not about supporting American Jews. Okay, they don't care about American Jews at all, at all, at all. Okay, like ridiculous. I love how they tried to make that the cover story. No, it was 1,000 pastors, Christian Zionist pastors, who got together in Israel to strategize on how to, brainwash young Americans who noticeably are not in favor of Israel, to be in favor of more of the same foreign policy toward Israel that we've been seeing for decades.
Yeah. And the reason I bring that up, guys, is if people tell you that's normal, that Christian pastors are supposed to, quote unquote, educate the young for lifelong support of a different country and a different religion. No, even if you like that, that's not normal. That's weird, that's out of order. So again, it's a litmus test for who's being honest and who's not being honest. So if they keep telling you that crazy things that Israel's doing, spying on us, another story we covered today, doing propaganda through these pastors, etc., that all of that is normal, know that that's not a person you could really trust. They're not being honest with you. Now, it doesn't mean that if the person who is being honest is correct. Candace Owens could be honest and be totally incorrect. I have no idea. So, but I think it's fascinating that now there's two different camps. And Anna, if you think about it, I mean, on the left, those two camps have existed forever. There's the progressive / populist / whatever you want to call them, our side, grassroots side, that has tried to hold the Democratic politicians accountable. And then there was a huge side that said, no, you have to bow your head to the Democratic politicians. They're playing 4-dimensional chess. They're going to deliver for us 40 years from now. And you guys are hurting our cause. So make sure that you lie on behalf of Democratic politicians. So they're now having that same fight on the right.
I get it. And look, I also understand that Tim Pool has a newborn and he's got, I think, a wife, but wife or girlfriend, doesn't matter. He's got a family that he's worried about. So being met with violence like that is absolutely infuriating. But you got to take a beat, and you can't just blame like Candace Owens or imply that Candace Owens is responsible for what happened, number one. And number two, again, for me, a red line is discussing what security, if any, another content creator has at his or her own home.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.